do this blitz of the Delta and they'll look for birds. And when they find them, they'll say, okay, boom, the birds are there, we're gonna trap there. When you're banning a bird, you're banning them when they're molting. And a lot of times they tend to be non-breeders. And so what the helicopter does is it rounds up the birds, push them into the water. As soon as they get towards the pot, they push them up onto land, and the birds will run towards the pot. That's when the people on the ground start to stand up, and the geese start to see, oh my gosh, oh, can't go over there, I can't go over there, and then eventually they end up in that pot. In 1964, there was an earthquake that had occurred. And so it went from this super flat, really grassy area, and then it got shifted up, and it created like these crazy little environments that then started to shift more to this shrub component. But with the Duskies, what ended up happening with that 1964 earthquake is it created this habitat change, and it actually boosted that population. It gave them all these areas to nest, and it was really great. But then as the succession started to happen, it increased a lot of predators such as bear, the bald eagle. You're starting to see moose using the areas a lot more. The Dusky geese, their primary nesting habitat is here on the Copper River Delta, but they migrate down a corridor that follows the Pacific path, and they end up in Oregon and Washington. We have a responsibility as the Forest Service and as the maintainers of that habitat to do something to help that species. So once the geese are in the pot and they're kind of settling down and stuff, we'll start to take them out of the pot individually and start banding them. So we sex them to determine if it's male or female. We want to look at if it's an adult or a juvenile. So they did a DNA testing as well, which required us to pull a secondary feather. The collars are large, and they go around the neck of the bird, and they're red and they have white writing. And the reason why those are used is they're really easy to re-sight. You can have binoculars, you can have a scope, you can read that from quite a ways away. With the metal bands, you can't read those at all. That's just an individual marker that if that bird was shot, if it dies, if anything happens to it and it has that leg band on it, we then have a record of it. Sometimes birds end up in really weird places, and you're not going to know unless you're putting those bands out there. Canada geese are like super feisty, and they just don't like to play nice. We usually would just kind of tuck the bird's head and hold it kind of like a football, and then you just do what you need to do and then release it. So we had 600 birds that we wanted to ban, and then 300 of them we wanted to put collars on, and so we met that goal this year. So next year that might change. It might be the exact same.
3,058.
3,058?
And the whole reason for the band is to find out if later on in the season or years and years later that they're shot, where are they being taken, where are the highest levels of shooting going on. Teasing out succession from climate change is going to be difficult, just because succession is this natural process, but with climate change it can be accelerated. and it's going to be hard to determine which one is which because they're both going to be occurring essentially at the same time.